Hi, this is Lynn McCool. Welcome to week 3. And this week is a pivotal week for you because you're actually going to read the signature essay for this course, which is The Cultural Role of Rhetoric by Richard Weaver. You have a number of assignments this week that in some way are connected to each other. So you do have some readings from your course text. You have The Cultural Role of Rhetoric by Weaver, and then a lecture on the canon of invention. The first thing that you should do every time you come into the weekly module is to check on the assignment page. So let's go ahead and click here and we'll take a look at the different things that I'm asking you to do this week. So I'm inside the week 3 assignment page. You can see that, again, our topic this week is the cultural role of rhetoric, and the lecture for this week is on the topoi of invention. Now, I chose this as your lecture this week because you are going to be choosing the topic that you're going to use for the very last 2 speeches that you'll give in this course. Remember, those 2 speeches are paired and they're researched. And so I wanted to give you some information on how to find different kinds of ideas for creating a speech and also for coming up with a topic. And so hence we are looking at the canon of invention, the topoi of invention. So please listen through that particular lecture. I think that you'll find that helpful as you are considering which policy topic to choose for your last 2 speeches in the course, the analysis speech and the persuasive speech. The readings this week come from How to Argue Like Jesus, Chapter 4, and this is a chapter on narrative and imagery. And you're going to see some overlap and some connection with Carter and Coleman's discussion of narrative and imagery with Weaver's signature essay, The Cultural Role of Rhetoric. So there is some connection there, and I want you to be looking for that connection as you're reading both of Chapter 4 of How to Argue Like Jesus and The Cultural Role of Rhetoric. I also ask that you go out to this link, The Persuasive Appeals of Logos, Pathos, and Ethos. This gives a nice definition of each of those artistic appeals. So please read about all 3. In other words, follow the links for Logos, follow the link for Pathos, and follow the links for Ethos, and just read those quick definitions of those terms. You should also read the Media Share Speech number 2 directions. So take a look at that prompt because you will want to begin preparing for that speech. It's not due this week, but it is due next week. And now that we've got the first 2 weeks behind us, I want you to be thinking ahead instead of trying to always catch up. So you should, especially with the holiday from classes today, you should be working to get completely caught up and then pushing forward so that you're working ahead and not always scrambling to try to get something done. As I said earlier, the signature essay for this particular course is The Cultural Role of Rhetoric by Richard Weaver, and you do have a discussion board that asks you to think through that essay as well as some of the other course material in relationship to the essay. And so I'm going to go there for just a minute. This is one of the more extensive discussion boards that you'll have this semester. There are actually 5 different threads on this particular discussion board, and you should respond to each one of those 5 prompts. And so you can see that in the first prompt, I'm asking you to compare what Carter and Coleman are saying in their chapter on narrative and imagery with what Weaver has said in his essay. Number 2 asks you to think about Weaver's argument that rhetoric is all good and dialectic is all bad, so you can think through that. Number 3, Weaver argues more or less that Socrates may have got what was coming to him, and again, I want you to think through that and answer. So each one of these prompts in this particular discussion board is worth approximately 9 points, and then there are 5 points set aside for your response posts back to your fellow classmates. So you should try to respond to at least 2 people, but you're not limited to that. You can respond to as many as you wish, as long as you respond to at least 2. Okay, let's go back for a moment to the module itself. Don't forget that by the end of today, you should have the peer review for that first media share speech. So you go into Launchpad and you can just comment right in. Those comments will only be seen by the speaker and by me. So you won't be able to see each other's comments in that way. So if Bob comments on Susan's speech, Jill can't see Bob's comments. That's how that's set up. There's also another Launchpad activity, this speaking effectively with vividness and alliteration, and this ties into Carter and Coleman's discussion on imagery and narrative, ways in which we can use language to be persuasive and to influence our audience. And then, of course, these are just the directions for the media share speech. So please read through those. Please begin working towards finishing that speech. Now, let's talk just for a moment about deadlines. So it's my understanding that Canvas, the way that Canvas sets up deadlines is that if I set a 5 o'clock deadline here in the Central Time Zone, then I'm thinking that it is not maybe translating exactly right into your time zone. I've tried changing that so that the course itself was actually set in Eastern Time, but I'm still experiencing some problems. So what I want you to do is just mentally think that everything is due at 5 p.m. by your time, and based on what Canvas is doing, I will make adjustments when I see that timestamp on your assignment. Okay, well, if you have questions about week 3, please contact me. Otherwise, I look forward to your thoughtful and engaging discussion about the cultural role of rhetoric. And also, don't forget to sign up for your policy topic. Let me go there quickly before we go. Again, you want to choose a policy topic, something that's controversial, something that's being currently discussed or debated, or at least is currently discussed or debated from time to time. There are all different kinds of topics that you might choose, so pick something of interest because you are going to be researching that. I've given you the link to the PHC library resource page. This page is set up specifically for this class, and so you'll find lots of good resources on that particular page, so please check that out. If you have questions about research or about finding materials, the librarians are aware of this particular assignment, and so you can feel free to contact them, and they will help you in finding credible source material to use for this particular speech. So please make sure that you put your topic up on this little discussion board here so that I can just look through them, and I will make comments on any that I think may or may not work for that particular assignment. Okay? All right, if you have questions, please contact me, and I will talk to you again soon. Thanks.